Welcome to Mental Health Momentum, a Silicon Slopes podcast. I'm Dr. David Morgan. I'm a licensed psychologist and the Director of Mental Health Awareness here at Silicon Slopes. On this podcast, we talk about mental health issues in business and beyond, and we look for solutions. And I'd like to introduce my guest to you today, Julie Janke. Hello, Julie.
Hi.
So nice to have you here.
So nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm so glad that you're here. Let me tell you about Julie. With over 2 decades of experience in media, community relations, and strategic partnerships, Julie is a dynamic leader passionate about fostering meaningful connections. Her ability to identify opportunities, cultivate relationships, and drive business growth has made her a respected figure in every organization she's been a part of. Julie thrives on building partnerships that create lasting impact, guided by integrity, trust, and creativity. She takes a heart-centered approach to both business and life, blending strategy with genuine care for the people and communities she serves. Beyond her professional pursuits, Julie is an avid outdoor enthusiast who finds joy in skiing, golf, hiking, and outdoor adventures with her family and friends. She believes in the power of health, fitness, and meditation as the foundation for a fulfilled life. Okay, 2 things about that.
Yes.
We'll talk about meditation later because I just started meditating like a week ago.
Oh, good.
So I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
And then second, I love bios because if you're like everyone else, you were just feeling uncomfortable the whole time I was reading it because you're like, but shouldn't we be celebrating ourselves? You know, because all those things are true, right? All those things are true about you.
Yes.
But at the same time, we're like, oh, I don't know, who am I? But
well, I've noticed, I have been in rooms with some very successful and powerful women. And when they stand up to introduce themselves, not one of them is like, I did this, I'm amazing. You know, they're just like, oh, hi, I'm, the owner of a law practice, or I'm just a doctor who, figured out autism
Cured
or something.
cancer or something
Yeah,
like that, exactly.
like no one wants to shout out and celebrate themselves. And I don't know why we don't, but we don't. And then it's like friends are, no, you need to know how cool she is.
Yes,
she did this, she did this.
exactly.
Like, she's amazing. It's kind of, yeah.
And that's a big difference between women and men, isn't it? Because men, we have no problem. We put it on a T-shirt, and say, here's all my accomplishments.
It's so true.
Right? It is so true.
Yeah.
I was interviewing Dr. Susan Madsen a while ago on the podcast, and she's done just tons of research into women in the workplace and that. And one of the most amazing things she's found is that when men and women work together is when we have the best outcomes. When it's not, so like in an organization, if you had 10 people in charge, she says if 5 were men and 5 were women, you'd have better outcomes than if 10 were men or 10 were women. And it's just remarkable.
Well, I agree. And I think it's because we bring such a different perspective from life to the equation. And which is why I think we also need each other. We need our men to be strong and feel whole and solid, and our women as well.
Exactly.
We both have a really intentional and beautiful place, in the workplace, in the home, in the universe.
I heard someone describe it once as our right and left hands, which are they're identical but opposite. And if you had 2 right hands or 2 left hands, like you couldn't grip as much or you couldn't do as many things. The fact that they are mirror images of each other make them so much more effective when working together.
I love that.
And I love that
it's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, exactly. That so in many ways we're similar, these carbon-based life forms or whatever, and we kind of look the same, but yet we bring different things to the table.
Yes.
I love that. And I love just being able to celebrate the good things that people are doing. And most of the time I find myself trying to be a little more intentional about that with women, just because you don't celebrate it as much as you should sometimes, and it's just out of maybe just modesty or reading the room better than a man does, and say, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but we come with so many amazing qualities. So anyway, so you do. So thanks for being here and thanks for being amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, and tell me a little bit about, so it's a mental health podcast. And when I reached out to you, you said, I'd love to be on that.
Yeah.
So have you had any experiences with that? Like your own personal experience or friends or family? What's your interest in that?
Well, first of all, we all have mental
of course,
health, right? And so, but I personally have just taken, I think just such an intentional, role with it. Being a mom. So there we go, right? I have twins. And seeing my own children and helping my children navigate life, at 15, I think a lot of parents would share the same experience.
They're 15 right now?
No. Oh. They're 25 now.
Oh, okay.
We are way through that hump. But
nice.
at 15, like your children just start to struggle. And I think they start to have their own identity crisis because they're just trying to figure out who they are. And so it's just not only have I done it for myself, but then also helping my kids also learn who they are. For me as a parent, learn who they are and then help guide them to that. And so I think everything is mental health. The quality of our emotions is the quality of our life.
Yes.
And so I think that the more that we can all kind of like, tend our own garden and then help each other, weed, the better everyone will feel, the more our communities thrive, businesses
Right.
thrive, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely something that I actively participate in all the time.
I love that. And I love the analogy you used about kind of tending to our own garden, then helping others,
Yeah.
because we really do have to kind of figure it out ourselves to
Yeah.
start. Not like 100% figured out, completely
No.
self-actualized, but we can't be drowning and helping someone
Well, no
who's
one
drowning as well, right?
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing of it is like I think that there's not enough attention on the fact of truly knowing yourself is everything.
Right.
And like literally sitting down, having that alone solace time with yourself to where you learn who you are. You learn who you are. And then you also learn what's important to you. What are your values? How do you filter decisions? How do you filter your day-to-day activities? And then how do you basically put that out in the world, right? So that they're all aligned. I mean, and I think that you really can't truly do that unless you take some time to yourself,
Yes.
learn who you are. I mean, we all have great things about our personality. We all have challenging things about our personality, And so it's like, okay, how do I balance that? And I think that unless you do take time to truly get to know yourself and then also go, okay, time management might be hard for me. What are
Right.
some things I can do to put in my schedule where now time management is not going to be one of those anchors, but like, a hot air balloon
Right.
kind of thing. So,
Okay, so I'm going to ask you specifically about how you're doing this,
yes.
because you are so Mill Creek Lifestyle Magazine, right?
Yes.
That's your magazine that you're. So did you start this yourself?
I
Tell me
did.
about it.
I started
Okay.
it myself. So the beautiful thing, Mill Creek City Lifestyle is part of a franchise of about 235 publications across the United States. We've been around for 16 years, and they basically reached out to me. I would say kind of like a divine time in my life when I was ready to leap and ready to grow and do something new. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I've always wanted to have some kind of a meaningful impact in people's lives, but I wasn't quite sure the avenue. And so when they reached out, it was honestly just like a perfect time that I was ready to just jump into my own thing. And it felt like I had kind of enough support, from like the corporate folks, but also like enough knowledge in myself to where I'm like, okay, I'm double downing on myself and this is it. Everything about it just felt like, can we say, a hell yes, right? For,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I was just, everything about it was a hell yes. And when you have that calling in your soul and your heart and you're like, I can't not do it, that's meant for you. So I did. I leap of faith on myself and decided it was time. And 2 years ago, I started it. So
Okay.
I bought the franchise in August of 23, went to their training, and then boots on the ground in September and just started, getting out, meeting people in the community, sharing my vision with them, raised enough money and launched in December of 23 for an actual February first issue.
Wow, that's
So
fast.
February of 24. Yeah.
So, okay, so I don't know your personality. So
Sure.
Julie back in 2023, the one who's decided I'm going to do this. Was that like was it difficult for you to make that leap? Or did you like have lack of confidence? I mean, what was going on in your mind?
No, that's a really great question because it is actually what kind of also led me to like this medium. Prior to, just a quick snippet, I was working at Nightingale College. Loved working at Nightingale College. I was their senior manager in their partnerships department. We grew the college from 8 locations to 34, in just under 5 years. Was doing some really incredible things in the community, and not just our community, but like 34 communities across the United States,
Wow,
from
yeah.
Anchorage, Alaska, like Dodge City, Kansas, Las Vegas. Like we were spreading and we had an incredible mission. And things with them kind of started shifting. They were becoming kind of their awkward teen years of growth or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling aligned right now for me. And so I ended up finding a new job, became director of partnerships for a health informatics company. Nothing against them. The guy that they hired, that I was replacing was retiring and they just didn't know exactly what he did. He had been there for like 30 years.
Sure.
And I was so isolated. And I was not on the road. I was not out meeting people. I was home in my house by myself, day in and day out, barely talking to people, living in spreadsheets. And I just bawled and I was like, I'm not in the right job. And my kids had also left home at the time. They were kind of college in and out, revolving door as you do. And I was just alone. And I just thought, this feels like shit, and I was slowly kind of losing myself, I think, to isolation, severe isolation, which I think a lot of people silently suffer with, not realizing what it is. And so thankfully, a dear friend who I've done plenty of his yoga retreats, Scott Moore, was doing a retreat in Amalfi, Italy. And I was like, you know what? I need to fall back in love with life and I need to remember the joy. And so I went on that retreat and remembered what lights me up, right? That's always kind of the roadmap, I think, for people. What lights you up? What makes you feel good inside? And it was connecting with so many different business owners there and the people and hearing their stories. And I came home, the magazine kind of like pivoted with me at that time, DM through my LinkedIn. And I was just like, yeah. So that's kind of, So, I mean, they always say, your purpose, your pain becomes your purpose.
Sure,
my pain was isolation. And so my purpose then became to connect the community and for myself and doing it for others.
Well, and isn't it interesting how, looking back on that, if you would have still been at Nightingale College and then the DM comes regarding Mill Creek.
Right. I wouldn't have gone.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have gone.
You'd be like, no, I've got this great thing going on.
Yeah.
We're doing so much good.
I was thriving. I mean, those people are still family to me. I love the people there. And it was such an incredible job. And it really taught me like what my own superpowers are, building partnerships, creating greater influence and impact in communities. So, but because I had left there. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I have to say, like, I felt so like connected at the time, like to my higher self. And I was just like, no, it's right to leave Nightingale. And I couldn't believe I was saying that. I was like, I'm retiring here. I'm going to work here for 25 years. Like I thought I found my professional home. And then just one day I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I'm done here. I think but it's again, it's that intentional time sitting with yourself to where you know yourself and you're listening to yourself and you're just like, wow, it's time to grow again, And I think a lot of people, and nothing on people, but it takes courage. It just takes massive amount of courage to just like acknowledge I need to go.
Well, and there's entrepreneurs that listen to this, and I love both those things about your story. Number one,
Thanks.
Just that kind of that curveball that you had, or that kind of fork in the road, and that happens to people, and they think, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah,
this is terrible.
Yeah.
But in almost every case, it is leading to something better, or prepares us for just a change that's going to come, right? And so maybe if people are in that, that time, that was probably during COVID, right? Was all that during COVID when you?
I was at the nursing college during COVID, and that was obviously a challenge because we couldn't bring nursing students into skilled nursing facilities, and so we were like, we have to pause, And then I started hiking like 4 days a week. I'm like, what are we gonna do? We can't even call hospitals right now,
Yeah.
So but it was in, I want to say 21. I think it was like the summer of 21 or 22 when I left.
Oh, when you left Nightingale.
When I left Nightingale.
Oh, okay.
And then I was with the health informatics company for about a year.
Okay.
And it was during that time, like, and I had emailed the CEO and I was just like, and they were like asking me for feedback. And I'm like, oh, this feels like my Jerry Maguire letter, How honest do I want to be? I might not have a job tomorrow.
But I love that just having the perspective. It's so easy to have perspective in hindsight, right? And to look back on it. But we have the benefit of other people having walked the path before us. And so that's the advantage that you hold right now, is to other entrepreneurs out there, and they're in the middle of their health informatics place that they don't quite like.
Exactly.
And you're saying, hold on,
When life gets uncomfortable, you have to listen.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about
or
that too.
Losing the joy or the spark or the passion to go in, I mean, there's some incredible examples of people that I've seen, that since I've even started the magazine, that are like, this doesn't feel aligned. You have to live by your values. You have to live. That's how things get done. That's how change happens.
Yeah. Well, and I think life is moving so fast now that we are almost less aware of what's going on internally, because so many things are happening all the time, right?
Right.
I remember years ago, we were traveling to Utah from Washington, and we were staying with my wife's uncle, in like rural Idaho. And we've lived in cities our whole lives. And I remember standing out on the front porch of their house, and there was no noise. There was nothing. I mean, the silence was deafening. It felt like a pressure on my ears,
Right.
but there was literally no noise. There was no airplane. There was no road noise. There was no wind. And I just remember thinking, and that's been probably 15 years since I had that experience. But I remember thinking, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Just to have this absence of input,
Right.
which is one of the things. And I want to talk about kind of these like yoga and meditation and things like that, because everything you're talking about kind of has this flavor to it of like getting in touch with who we are.
Yes.
And that's one of the ways we have to look inside to do that.
Completely.
And you have to kind of shut down the outside in order to do that, right?
You do.
I mean, I've done some yoga, not too much. My wife does it quite a bit, but I just love just the principles of it, of like being in touch with the ground and the earth and all this.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the word yoga itself means union.
Oh, really? I did not know
Yeah.
that.
And so I used to teach yoga. I went through a lot of teacher training back in the day, and which I think in some ways is just life training, right? But that's kind of where I went to the University of Utah, but have a strong interest in health. And in tandem was kind of also going through yoga teacher training. And it just gave me so much insight, And so the word yoga itself means the union, and it's the union of breath, of physical, of your higher self. And it's literally like it's the only medium of exercise. It literally takes all of those and kind of combines them in one, and that's why you feel so good after yoga, and you feel so clear and you feel so grounded, But yeah, I mean, it really has kind of become a cornerstone, just the practice of that throughout my life. And it's how I've learned to discern, everything. I mean, it's how I've, kind of built myself completely, actually, is through the practice of yoga and the different Eastern philosophy. I just think there's so much wisdom there, I mean, and I was raised to a degree Christian, but I get so much value off of Eastern philosophy. Like, I can't even tell you today, like, we'll define your religious beliefs. And I know we're not going there, but I'm like, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, because I feel like there's so much wisdom in all of it that I kind of pull from what feels right and works for me. But
I remember
it's a big round question on,
yes.
I don't know if I completely answered your question.
No, I loved it. When I was in graduate school, I read this book, and I can't remember who the author was. I've tried Googling the phrase to see if I can find it. Can't find it anywhere. But it was on Eastern philosophies. No, it was Native American philosophies, which in some ways are similar to Eastern philosophies. Yes.
Yep.
And it said that most Western people, it says, we race from the past to the future over the knife edge of the unlived present.
Wow.
And I just loved that image of just how, and the present is all we have.
Yeah.
It
is all we
what
have.
we talked about 5 minutes ago is gone, and we don't have the next 5 minutes yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We literally just have this moment, but in our lives, we're spending so much time either fretting about the past or anticipating the future. And entrepreneurs are there all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you right now, as you're waiting to this podcast, you're out there on your laptop sending emails or doing something, because you're busy. You've got stuff to do.
Right.
So how do you balance that? You still practice yoga, I assume.
I practice not as regular, only because I'm at that age where I need to lift weights,
Okay. Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. But I think that, again,
You're still taking time to strengthen your body.
I do. Yeah. Working out is a huge part of my wellness program, like mental wellness, I will say. So I meditate every day. And that, for me, especially since I started the magazine, the publication, I like to look at it, and I'm going to answer you kind of probably in a long way,
okay.
but the way this is kind of, you have to have your non-negotiables in life, and your daily habits create who you are,
right.
And when I was starting the magazine, I would just take meetings whenever people would take them with me. We can meet at 8 a.m. We can meet on Saturday.
Right.
We can meet at 7. Great. And it just kind of led a little bit to a crazy, but I was and so I started thinking, like, I used to work out every day, right? When I was at Nightingale, like, especially, with COVID and everything, it was like I'd run, jump on my Peloton downstairs and, get my hikes in and lift weights and stuff. But then, when I started the magazine, I started letting my schedule go, and I would just fit that in when I could. And I can tell you, February, March, so about 2 or 3 months after I launched, I was a mess. Like, just in the mental sleep, stress, grinding, clenching capacity. And I just thought something has to change. I did not start a business so that I can feel like garbage, so that I lose sleep. I just don't feel myself anymore, And so my own little, metaphor, I guess, if you will, that I share with people, you have to get intentional about your day every day.
Yep.
There's no difference from running your own business versus working for somebody else. It's still how you live your day, right? And so I like to look at it like you are a glass of water and you take a rock every morning and you say, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to make my own fresh food or, whatever it is. I'm going to spend time. Oh, let's see. It's Monday's night with the kids or my husband or my boyfriend or whatever, going to dinner with girlfriends, whatever it is. Everything else, the water part, that's the stuff you pour in. That's work. Work is a necessary means, right? Like it's how we survive. It's how we thrive, but it can't be everything. And until you are intentional with your day and the things that you put in your day and your non-negotiables, you're going to feel out of control and chaotic. And so for me, I look back and I think, okay, physical fitness is something that I do to control my focus. It boosts my creativity and my flow. And without that, like I wouldn't have a publication or advertising partners or anything like that. And so I just know ways that help me thrive. And then I just fill that, kind of cup, especially first thing in the morning, so that the rest of my day, now it's the water. And then when I run out of time then I know I'm done for the day. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you can work all day, every day.
Exactly.
You don't have to take weekends off. And I've learned taking weekends off is also really important. I mean, like there's times I've been so juiced about what I'm doing and I'm so excited and I work till, Friday night and Saturday comes and my editor needs stuff. And I'm like, sure, and I work through the weekend and I'm like so excited about what I'm doing. Monday comes and I feel like I've been hit by a truck.
Yep.
But now I have to be on because the rest of the world is on. And so like there's so much power in the shutdown too. You have to have boundaries with yourself and your work.
It's so interesting because our physical bodies are designed to shut down, right? I mean, you can only go so long without sleep and your body will literally, you'll go unconscious,
mentally,
right?
you're just, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, that will happen to your physical bodies. Our minds are different than that. We have to be more intentional about how we manage that because for whatever reason, we think we have this unlimited amount of emotional energy.
Yes.
And that it'll just keep coming and coming and coming. But it doesn't work that way either. It's a perishable quantity, just like our physical energy.
Right.
And it has to be, recharged or rekindled or however it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fallacy, especially for entrepreneurs and this grind. And they say, well, the more you work, the further you're going to get. That's true to a certain extent, but you're going to wear yourself out and you're going to get to the point where then you can't do even those things you wanted to do. And so you have to, like you said, even if it was a wonderful week, when Friday night hits, you say, you know what? I know how I'm going to feel on Monday if I don't take the weekend off. So I'm going to take time for myself.
Well, and that's the thing. And I think sometimes we do push ourselves beyond that exhaustion. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. What's the actual quality of the work you're putting out?
That's so true.
And without clarity, stepping back, taking some time, like, are you feeding yourself as a business owner, an entrepreneur? Like I was just on a work trip last week and happened to not have Wi-Fi on the plane, which at first you're like, oh, I was planning on this time to work, But I also had just got a book and it was called Take Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
I know that book. Buy back your time.
Buy back.
Yes, I know that. It's a great book.
Great book. And I started looking at it. I was like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, like different kind of creativity started flowing, which is where I was like, okay, I need to hire an assistant,
Yes.
But it was like without that time to just really, like, we always think sending more emails is the answer, right? Responding to more tasks, but also taking time to just still like personally develop yourself. And I can tell you, being an entrepreneur, it's like nothing you've ever done before. It literally is the path of self-development because you have to learn how to develop yourself to continue to be a relevant and interesting and helpful and insightful visionary as an entrepreneur. You are now a creator. You no longer just receive. Like now you have to put your work out into the world, right? And so it's so valuable to take time for yourself and feed your brain. It just builds upon another.
Exactly. Well, and that's the paradoxical effect is that the time that you do take away from these things that are supposedly, getting you further down the road and helping you move your business forward is going to eventually give you even greater creativity and
Big
more
time.
energy in that.
Yeah.
And there's always time, right? I mean,
For
even if you
sure.
take just 10 minutes a day
Absolutely.
to meditate or whatever, I like I said earlier, I recently started that practice and I've really enjoyed it because
Good.
that is not my
Yeah.
character at all.
Yeah.
My mind is always on. I am always thinking, and to really just stop and like literally clear my mind and not think about anything except
Yeah.
like in the guided meditation, they'll like, notice your heart beating
Right.
or notice the way your hands feel on your thighs, if
Yeah.
you're resting your hands. And I'm like, I've never noticed these things before, and they're happening all the time.
Right.
But it's been a lovely experience just to take even just that little time,
Good.
and it's refreshing. I love it.
Don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like a long time ago, like Gabby Bernstein is one of my mentors, right? Not like she lives in New York. Like it's a
Yes.
virtual relationship, Hey, Gabby, what's
Right.
but no, but like, I mean, I remember someone asking her, but how do you fit meditation when you're so busy? And
Right.
she's like, do you have time to feel like shit?
Right.
You sit in meditation until you feel better.
Right.
And sometimes that's 5 minutes. It could be 15. It
Right.
could be, but like if you're intentional, when you just sit down and you take 5 minutes to just even breathe, just
Right.
consciously breathe, there's no way you can be in the same emotional state.
It's so true.
You can't. It's physically not possible.
And as far as mental health, there's so many positive mental health outcomes associated with that.
Yeah.
Just even becoming aware of what we're going through and being able to recognize it and then decide how we want to engage with it or not. Sometimes we just feel like we're being pulled around by the tail
Yeah.
by our emotions instead of being able to sit there
Big time.
and even in one of my recent meditations, I try to clear my mind as much as I can, but I was starting to have a thought about something that's very pressing in my life right now. But it
Right.
was fascinating just to kind of sit there and perceive it for a moment
Yeah.
and not worry about it, but just kind of think
Yes.
about it and think about, okay, what is this? And it was, anyway, it's pretty cool.
It is. It is cool, right? It's a cool practice.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you really allow yourself just that space to sit with something in a non-judgmental way,
Yes.
and then just start to like almost like kind of your own little, what about this? What about this? Let's look at it this way, like it offers such a greater awareness, and which obviously feeds clarity.
Right. Yeah. And it's accessible to everyone.
Yes,
It doesn't require a
it's
gym membership.
easy.
It's easy. You can
It's free.
you Google guided meditations and
Yep.
1,000 free things are going to come up that are
Yes.
one as good as the next.
I will
and
say the app I love the most is Insight Timer.
that's the one I have.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
going to say, and
okay.
it's free. There's so much
Yeah,
free
so
content
much
on
free
there
content,
that's amazing and beautiful.
Yes.
You can pay for the subscription, which is I think $60 a year.
Right. It's not very expensive.
It's not.
But
yeah,
there's a ton of
it's
free
so
content.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Wow. This podcast brought to you by Insight Timer and Meditation. Right?
I know, right? Gabby, where you at, girl?
Exactly, yeah. Well, Julie, thank you so much for coming today and talking. You've been a great guest, and I love your example to people.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of people out there who are going to be inspired by just the courage you had to move forward into
Thank
a
you.
place you'd never been before, and then just seeing how to manage that as well, that it can be done. So
yeah.
anyway.
You know what? You're worth it. You have to.
Yes.
This life is meant to be lived, and
Yes.
if you're not living, you're not doing it right. Like live, get out there, push your boundaries. Your comfort zone it's cool for a minute, but then
exactly, but don't stay there.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of
It's been
course.
awesome.
And thanks everyone for listening today. Remember that change starts with you, and together we can increase our mental health momentum.